you don't really know where you're going to show up, and there's no way to tell. It's all algorithmic. I'm not even sure Google really knows where you're going to show up. This is where Meta's moving to, where you don't really control. You don't say, hey, I'm going to buy this ad on YouTube. What we're seeing is fewer people searching the Google for the 10 blue links, right? I think it's mostly AI related.
One, two, three, four.
You're listening to Owner RX with Pentz, the podcast for business owners who want to scale without sacrifice. Each episode delivers battle-tested strategies from the Owner RX Playbook library, showing you exactly how to build systems that run without you. Here's your host, Pentz.
All right, we are back on the Owner RX podcast with the lovely Tonya Berenson from
So
Scientific
exciting.
Span.
Yeah,
How are
you're
you?
right. I'm good. I'm good. How are you
Excellent. Well, we have
doing?
some love. Great. We're about to hit fall here in DC, so I'm excited.
I like your
Fall
background
weather.
there, Alan.
Yeah, see like my Jimi
I feel
Hendrix
like
up there,
your son's
my
room.
Riverside, my Riverside background. Yeah, so it's all fake. Um, I'm actually out on my back porch. So what are we talking about today?
I think we think we need to talk about marketing, right? And how growth
Yeah,
tactics are increasingly challenged. So I
yeah.
know
So
there's a lot going on
I
there. So what's going on?
yeah, so I coach a lot of businesses in different kind of industries, and a lot of them rely on Google ads or at least use them. And I've had varying reports since the spring about the plummeting performance of pay-per-click ads from particularly from Google. Meta has been a problem for a long time and is probably
Right.
worse. But I'm probably a little bit more up to speed on where Google is, and people are just seeing them not work. And I think what's happening is a combo of, I think it's mostly AI related. And what we're seeing is fewer people searching the Google for the 10 blue links, right?
Hmm.
And moving traffic to the chat bots, and more traffic moving even when they do a Google search to Google's AI answers. And then, that's happening at the same time when I think the economy for non-AI companies, like regular mainstream companies, is stagnant at best.
Right.
So we're kind of seeing like a double whammy of a change in the way the market's working, the way the technology is shaping the market, and then at the same time, uh, the economy itself is slowing down. So I
Okay.
think we
So
need to look at some new ideas.
yeah, let's unpack it a little because it sounds like a lot. Let's unpack it.
Yeah, yeah. So I think with the economy, there's not much we can do about that, right? So let's kind of put that aside. You're going to be growth challenged right now.
Right.
Um, and as if you're in a product category that is bought by the top 1%, you're probably doing pretty well because they
Mm-hmm.
still have money from the stock market and they're spending it. But if you're doing something, for the mass market, it's tougher. Um, and of course that kind of plays itself through to B2B in ways. But so that's just what it is. It's going to resolve itself however it does. But on the tactics side and the strategy side, I think that's where people can start doing some stuff. And I think that I kind of have a short term and a long term recommendation there.
Okay, good.
So, yeah. So in the short term, it's going to be tough because the signals aren't really that clear yet. And I think what's happening is, Google's in the midst of a huge shift in how it's allocating ads, and it's going to be an ongoing process. So,
Mhm.
nobody has more ad surface area than Google. I mean, they've got search engine, they've got chatbot, they've got YouTube, they've got Android, they've got a lot of stuff.
Yeah, they've got it all.
So, and what I'm hearing is more and more from marketers, like people are doing this full time for clients. Google's um, premiered a product called or a service called Performance Max. And it's basically a black box where you put in what the money and the ads, and then they put them across everything. So I've heard that they're testing it in the AI answers that you see. Some people are seeing that. They would put it
Okay.
in the blue link, put it amongst the search page. They even put it in YouTube. So you don't really know where you're going to show up, and there's no way to tell. It's all algorithmic. I'm not even sure Google really knows where you're going to show up. It's just looking for signals. So I talked about this a little while ago. This is where Meta's moving to,
Hmm.
where you don't really control. You don't say, "Hey, I'm going to buy this ad on YouTube." It's like, "Hey, I want to get this kind of customer. I want to sell this thing," and they figure out where it should
They're
go.
driving completely then. You don't have any
Yes,
input.
right. And it's hard to know. So from marketers I've talked to, it definitely works. So they're saying that it's better than organic campaigns that they're running.
Hmm.
The concern is it cannibalizing existing organic traffic and
Hmm.
other, you don't know what's happening. So I think what people need to do, first of all, a lot of marketers are reluctant to use it because it kind of disintermediates them. They're not as important for selecting where to go. So they're going to be
No.
resistant to it. What's that?
Do you blame the marketers for feeling that way?
I do. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they gotta live with the times, right? That's your
Yeah.
job. Um, so I think, that's an issue. So you're gonna have to kind of force them to do it or find somebody better. I had somebody on the podcast a couple of weeks ago who talked about it. So check that out. A guy out of Baltimore. And he was one that's finding it's working. So what you need to do is kind of have like a test run with a control group, right? So you're going to have to set it up so you can run it and see what's happening here while you're seeing what's happening in a control group. So you're going to have to do some pretty like, intentional testing of it. So that's one thing I definitely say people should be looking at. The
Hmm.
second thing I think is this answer engine or a generative engine optimization. So AEO, GEO. It's, who shows up in ChatGPT, basically. So, I mean, I guess a lot of people are feeling like, hey, long term, that's where everything's going. But obviously, site traffic is from that is plummeting because people just read the answer. They don't need to come and poke around on your site for stuff.
Hmm.
So I think we're starting to see the first emerging signs of where this is going. So it's pretty clear that traffic is dropping by multiples, 5, 10 times. But when someone does come to your site, their conversion rate to a sale is like 4 to like 20 times higher than it is from a Google search. And Google search is already the best there is.
Hmm.
So you're trading less traffic for potentially more conversions or the same amount of conversions, depending. Now, I don't think that's there yet. I think that's where we're going in some way, but I don't think that the techniques to figure out A or GEO have kept up with the plummet in pay-per-click advertising. So people are stuck
Okay.
in this short-term area where it's tough. Right.
Hmm.
So I think just first message is there's a lot of people going through it, so it's tough.
You're
And
not alone.
don't think you're alone. You're not
Yeah.
alone. Second is you need to start experimenting with these ideas, right? So Performance Max is one idea. Meta, I don't have great recommendations yet, so I'm looking for that.
Okay.
But then AEO, GEO is something where we're getting some evidence of what they can do, right? So what you can do there to improve it. So a couple things. Um, so the way LLMs read text, if you ever look at a markdown file, it's like it's a text file, but it's organized with very structured like headers and subheaders and like so you have, a question and an answer or like a subject and the summary of that subject underneath it. And everything's very structured. That's how LLMs like to digest information. So what people are
Hmm.
saying now is you got to kind of write content on your website designed for that LLM. And so that means, hey, like an FAQ, a long FAQ of questions and answers that might show up in LLM searches. So how do you figure out what that is? Well, go get a blind LLM. Don't, do it on incognito mode and free ChatGPT. So it's not, the problem is right now, if you have a paid ChatGPT, it's starting to remember stuff about you. So that's going to
Mm,
affect your search. Right? So you
okay.
don't want that. You want like a clean customer coming in. So go to like an incognito window and just use free ChatGPT with like a dummy account. And then, search for whatever it is you're doing. Try to imitate the searches of a customer.
The
Try to
potential.
understand what they're
Right.
asking. Yeah, potential customer. But if someone comes in through ChatGPT, if you're able to talk to them, find out what they're actually searching, and then go see what content ChatGPT gives you, and then
Mm-hmm.
ask the chatbot why it chose that and where it got the info from, and it'll tell you. And then go try to get there and duplicate that kind of information on your
Well,
page or
that's
make it
cool.
better, even. Right.
Okay.
So, but so that's a signal that we're seeing, but man, I don't know how long it takes to show up, how much you need to do it. Like no one knows that, right? So the other big thing is the other cheat code that people are using is
Mm-hmm.
go look at who OpenAI has signed content agreements with. They're most likely to feature that information the most. So the most prominent being Reddit. So now what's
Okay.
happening on Reddit? So Reddit is now becoming the ChatGPT search engine marketing campaign. So like basically what people are doing
I did
is
not
you
know that.
go so you okay, so people are doing this sort of like gray hat kind of thing where they get either they develop a bunch of accounts or they get some people in their company or friends or whatever. They go
Mm-hmm.
on and they're like, "Hey, how can you save time with timekeeping in your company?" And then they come in, they're like, wow, there's this great new AI solution from, timekeeping.ai. And everyone else is like, wow, tell me about timekeeping AI. And obviously it's a setup to like try to like get into ChatGPT with like a manufactured Reddit set of comments. Okay, so Reddit's trying to like kill that, and so they're gonna fight you. So it works sometimes, I guess. People do it, but Reddit's like got a huge incentive to keep you from doing that, right?
Okay.
And
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT has a big incentive to keep that out of their search engine. So they're gonna look for any kind of signal there, and they're probably, they have a bunch of people who work all the time on this stuff, so they're probably gonna beat you. So the better way to do it is HubSpot kind of has pioneered this, at least that's where I heard about it first, is they just go on to relevant, subreddits, kind of search through where are the most active places where people are talking about your kind of product.
Mm-hmm.
So for them, it's going to be like marketing and inbound and stuff like that. So they go in and they say, hey, I'm Dave from HubSpot. And someone asks a question about, what's the best software or whatever, and they say, hey, this is our perspective. This is how we answer that question. And they're very transparent about it. Obviously, by saying, hey, I'm Dave from HubSpot, he's getting HubSpot's name into the answer. So potentially it
Right.
comes out in the
Mm-hmm.
LLM. So I've been doing some of that on Reddit for like coaching stuff. And I haven't seen anything show up yet. I've only been doing it for a few weeks, but it's an experiment that I'm trying. And the key is really getting a really relevant answer that gets other people to interact with it. So if you get a great answer and other people come in and comment on it or like it and upvote it and stuff, then you're probably more likely to get it. So then there's going to be a lot of info out there about how to design the perfect answer for Reddit.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what you got to realize is like I think that's a declining strategy because everyone's just going to go to Reddit and start doing it. And so then all of Reddit is just going to be a bunch of people answering questions that are supposed to
Mm-hmm.
promote their service, right? And it's just going
Okay.
to get old. And people aren't going to do it in the right way all the time. So theoretically, if you had all the best people there answering questions in an honest way, it would be a helpful thing, but I think it's probably going to get polluted. So
So
try
what's the
it.
else? What else can
Yeah.
people do?
So this is where I go into my long term. Or no, no, sorry, not long term yet. So the third thing I'm seeing is people are starting to use cold outbound more effectively with AI. So there's Instantly AI, there's Clay,
Mm,
there's one that there's a great the guy Jason Lemkin writes a lot for this thing called SaaStr, which is like a SaaS software media startup, and he's really on top of like latest software platforms for everything, but particularly for outbound sales. And
what's
he's got one. What's
Lemkin,
up?
you said? Lemkin?
Yeah, Jason Lemkin, Lemkin from SaaStr.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has some really good recommendations. He's got another one that's probably more sophisticated than like Instantly. Um, but basically what they're doing is they've either got a database or they're scraping the web. You have your traditional players like Apollo and they just big contact databases,
Right.
yeah, and Zoom info. And then increasingly they're trying to use AI. Like Clay tries to go out and enrich the contacts. So they're like, hey, you got this like database, half of which is crap, right? So we're going to go out and like search the web for information about these people to verify who they are and what they're about. And like, did they post on LinkedIn? Did they post on social? What do their websites say about them, right? So they're automating all that and then putting it into, you can put it into a CRM, I guess you could probably do it in the platform. And then the goal is you then tailor, so you have like a set of messages you're pushing out about whatever it is you do, but the AI is tailoring that message to the enriched info that it gathered. So instead of just saying like, "Hey, I want you to check out my new CRM," it's like, "Hey, I noticed, you're posting about the need to like move customers through the funnel faster, and this is exactly how our solution solves that for you." So it's more tailored to the person.
That's way better.
Yeah, it's way better. The problem I see is like I highly recommend people start testing these things. We just started testing it for newsletter signups. So it requires, like you want to do it on separate domains. So get domains, registered domains that sound like yours, and try it on that because you're going to get spam tags if you're sending out too much
Okay.
cold from your core domain.
Mhm.
So it takes a while, and they have tools in there to like warm it up so it doesn't get tagged right away. So you use all that. And so it takes a while for it to get to scale, and you got to test messages and see what works and what doesn't. Um, and so we're testing it right now. So I'm not going to know for several months the results, but it's not crazy expensive. And I've heard good things from other people.
Mhm.
So I definitely recommend starting with these tools with the cold outreach and really trying to think through like, what kind of lead magnets do I have that might attract people? Don't, the other thing is like, you get all these emails all the time, like, hey, do you want me to like help you with your YouTube? Do you want me to do this? Do you want me? And it's like, no, get that
Yeah,
every day.
I
Why
can
don't you
make this.
create something that like adds some value? Like here are
Mhm.
4 tips for how you could do this on your own, and then download it, and now you have an email, right? And you can have a conversation from there. But you got to provide some value up front. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, most people don't do that, right? So I think, this is something you got to do now. It's a tactic that's open, and it's working to an extent, and the people who really focus on it and design it well are going to do pretty well with it. But
Mhm.
I think that the window for it is limited. I mean, just think about when 10,000 businesses get on Instantly and Clay and whatever the other one is that SaaStr uses and the alternatives, right? And they're all emailing everybody all the time because these things go 24 hours a day, right?
Absolutely. Right. Mhm.
So it's just going to be an S show, right? And no one's going to respond to any outbound in the future, right? So there's some guys at Slow Ventures who I follow. They're really good, smart guy. Yanni Reichman, I think, writes about this. And he's just like, if anyone thinks this is going to be the answer, they're smoking crack, right? Because we're just going to flood the zone. And so, I don't know how long that's going to take. The more I talk about it on podcasts, probably the shorter window will be open. But and other people talk about it, but say it's 6 to 12 months, 18 months max before
Maximum.
everybody's using 24-hour a day AI tailored outreach, and everyone's like, screw this, I'm not answering anything anymore. So, so that ends my sort of short to midterm tactics for now. I'd love to hear others. So if people have things that they see are working, I'm always looking. I always want to interview
Yeah.
people, just find out what's working and what people can learn from. But this is a seismic shift going on in the marketing landscape, and I think you ignore it at your peril, right? I mean, it's not
Mhm.
going to go back to anything like it was. Now, maybe I think another outcome could be that Google just sort of wins again, and that because they control so many surfaces and they're really getting their AI act together, that they end up, being the dominant player, and then it kind of goes back to paying Google to get ads, and they figure out how to get them in front. This Performance Max gets tuned. Obviously, the thing with Performance Max is you might have tested it a few months ago, and then 6 months from now, it's going to be totally different because they keep tuning it, right?
But with the Google,
Um,
does this depend on with Google, like them upping their AI game to get, what
yeah, and I think they have. I mean, I
basically?
think if you look at if you look at Google, I mean, they just have so much power in this game, right?
Mhm.
So first of all, they get money today for investing in AI because they get it from better ad placement. They get
Right.
those AI searches on the top of your page now when you search Google. They're going to be able to put ads in there. They're probably not monetizing that yet, but they will. And by the way, they make their own chips, so they don't really need the GPU as many GPUs from NVIDIA
That's English.
because they created their own chips way back when. It's they've got a huge advantage because they're not having to go raise investor capital
Right.
to fund development. And the the other players do. OpenAI's got to raise equity to do it.
Mhm.
'Cause they don't really, your 20 or $200 a month isn't enough for them. Now, I think in the long term, OpenAI has real traction with ChatGPT. So as they start adding shopping like they just did this week, and as they add advertising, they are going to have a revenue engine as well. So both are kind of getting to that point. Uh,
Okay.
so then I think long term, I think what we got to do is really start building communities, and you got to own your own real estate. So like for me right now, the big priority is helping clients think through, how do I get a newsletter? How do I get channels that lead to a newsletter? You can't, your community can't be on LinkedIn or on X or on anything else. It's got to be on your own channels. And I think that is the long-term opportunity that all of us have got to be trying to figure out. And I think what
Mhm.
I'm going to do is a little more research on this on other alternative ways. Like you can have a private community, like we just set up a circle for our AI cohort. But I think maybe next week what we do is hit like how do we create these communities and how do we build them? Because that's how you're going to sell to people long term. I think that's the only way to do it. Everyone's got to become a creator. That's essentially the deal.
A creator
So, yeah.
and a city.
So I think we're
Yeah.
going to try to keep these a little shorter to like 25 minutes, 20, 25 minutes. So next week we'll talk about that.
Community. Looking
Community and
forward to
creators. All right. Thanks.
You've been listening to Owner RX with Alan Pentz. Want to apply what you just learned? Try our AI business advisor at ownerrx.com. It has all the insights and lessons from this podcast, plus hundreds of playbooks, ready to solve your specific business challenges. Owner RX. Stop being the bottleneck. Start being the owner.